Okay, so welcome everybody to another episode of Bones and Stones. We're very excited today to have Dr. Nonny Vilakazi with us from the Paleo Research Institute at the University of Johannesburg. Nonny is a senior lecturer there, and we thought we'd have Nonny join us today to talk a little bit about her work in archaeology. We know that Nonny, you've been quite involved with community projects, engaging with young scholars and stuff as well, and going to schools and dealing with grades from 2 to 12, and obviously it's important to help students along and also to get them familiar with heritage and what we do from a paleo science point of view, because I mean, just talking from my own experience coming out of high school and getting to Wits first day orientation, I didn't even know what archaeology was. So it's really important to get these young scholars exposed to heritage and paleo sciences from a very young age. And you also mentioned now when we were chatting about the Pax Tux club that you've got together as well. So maybe talk us through a bit of the stuff that you've been involved in.
Thank you for having me, guys. Firstly, I co-run a Saturday school in Soweto, Mufula Central, where we teach kids from grade 2 to grade 12, and we teach anything from English to history and also the sciences. So we try to bring these subjects to them. We try to show them that there are other careers, there are other professions out there other than your typical medical doctor, your nurse, and so on. So that's what we do. And we act as tutors to them because we try to show them that we are there, we're giving back to the community. And with PEX, Mpho Maripane is the founder, so she runs it. I always go there every year to do my outreach programs with her. So we go to the Pretoria Township schools, and we focus mainly in high school. So it's only high school students. So that's what we do. We teach them archaeology, paleontology, and the histories.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. And just in terms of the Pax Tux program, is it something that happens once a year? Is it something that happens continually throughout the year? Are there multiple events, or how does it work?
I only attend once a year because after that I have to teach and I have my own research to focus on. So I only do it once a year around May, but Mpho does it as a continuous thing. So she does it throughout the year. She takes students to other field guides, field schools. So that's what she does, but I only do it once a year.
Okay, awesome. But that must be quite exciting though. And I mean, to get that kind of interaction and back and forth with the students, I mean, that's obviously really, really good. Tim, I'm going to hand over to you. You got a question?
Yeah, just in terms of these interactions, I was just wondering, how do the younger students respond to archaeology? Is it something that fascinates them? Is it something that's just so foreign to everyone, or how do they react?
It depends on the kids or the school that you focused on. So in townships, I have to make it more interesting because most of them don't know these things. So I have to talk about dinosaurs and talk about T-Rex and, the Jurassic Park. So the minute you say those things, then it makes sense to them. Okay. And for the older ones, when you talk about Karabo or Naledi, Homo Naledi, then that makes sense to them because they've seen it on TV or once they've seen these cartoons where they talk about Homo Naledi. So it depends on my audience and how I deal with them.
Okay.
I suppose that kind of popular media exposure, especially with some of the discoveries in the cradle, it's really been so important. And I think some of that has hopefully filtered down to the school curriculum as well. And that's where students are starting to engage with this content. Kara, I'm going to hand over to you. Got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Nonny. Just wanted to see if you could expand a little bit about what the sort of PAX program is about, and maybe if you could just give briefly a summary of like how students can get involved if they find it of interest.
Okay, so PEX, as I've said earlier, it's run by Mpho Maripane. So she targets these township schools mainly, and she also works. I think she works in conjunction with the Department of Education, Basic Education. So she talks to them, and then they give her the directive and also the principals. So she does that. She goes to these schools and she does her presentations, and then afterwards, then they invite her, and then they call out all the students, and that's what we do then.
Awesome. And how do people sort of initiate that if they wanted to become part of the program?
I can give you her email address. I think I have it somewhere. I can give you her email address and then they can talk to her because I think she does need volunteers because also she's doing her PhD. So she needs volunteers, people who can help out and go out to schools with her. So I can give you her email address and then we can take it from there.
Sorry, Nonny, and maybe just to carry on with what you were saying there, Cara. So you're saying from the perspective of students possibly volunteering to act as tutors. Is that what you mean, Cara?
Yeah, yeah. I was just wondering how does somebody that may be interested in outreach in this particular aspect get involved with the program. So I think this is a really lovely initiative.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. So I know that she works with most students from WITS and UP, postgrad students. So yeah, they email her, and then I know she works with them. So I can give you her email address, and then she always does these advertisements or these posters so that people can come join in if they want to. So we can expand on that also. We can expand on her marketing so that people know about it. A lot of people can see what she does.
Right.
And then potentially expand the network of schools, I suppose. So I was actually going to
Yes.
ask about how they identify the schools, but you mentioned that the founder works directly with the Department of Education. So I suppose then it's a case of coordinating with the relevant schools. Tim, I'm going to hand over to you. You got a question?
Yeah, do you know of any students who've experienced this program at their school, and then when they come around to university level, they go and enroll in archaeology because of this experience? Or is it more just a case of exposing people to these histories?
You know, I'm not sure if students from last year, because we did have a few, about 5, who were interested. They even went on to some of these diggings. So they were quite interested. So I'm not sure if they ended up going to UP or to UNISA, but I know that some of the students showed interest and they wanted to do this at varsity level.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really great. I suppose that's where you start to see the kind of the fruits of your efforts. You know, at the end of the day, when you have students who are coming in and actually know what they want to do, and because they were exposed to it years before. Carrie, you've got a question?
Okay, Nonny. So nitty-gritty question: what are the sort of best parts and the worst parts about community engagement? Because it's really important. You know, we all commend you and applaud you for the work that you do, and you're very involved in this aspect of archaeology, which is really important. But obviously, there's going to be times where you have a smile on your face, and other times where you're not so happy. So, if you can maybe just touch upon that for people who might want to consider this as a potential path within archaeology.
With archaeology and paleontology in particular, when it comes to outreach, you have religion versus science. So people, so that's the issue. And with students, it's not that bad because some of them can distinguish. They can tell, okay, this is science, and they decide to detach themselves from church or whatever. But with teachers, that's where the issue is. Because now with teachers, they are adults, and they with change, they're not open to change. So they come with this attitude already that, okay, this is a lie. And are you saying that we are monkeys or whatnot? So that's the worst. That's the worst, because now you have to teach them. You have to make them understand and unlearn what they think they know. But with kids, the best moments when they see the casts, that's the best moment. They love casts. They think it's real. They want to touch it. So that draws them in. So those are the best moments. And then they start making fun jokes about these casts. So that's cool to me. And knowing that people understand what you're talking about when they see these casts, it's priceless.
I suppose I was actually going to ask a question linked to Matt's question about common misconceptions that the students will come in with, and you obviously touched on a few now. But I think it's that hand on contact with the fossils and stuff, like you say, with the cast, and it's so important because that's very much what archaeology is. It's such a hands-on discipline. We get into the field, we're looking at stone tools, we're looking at bones, and that's maybe what's so exciting about our discipline. We're not just sitting behind a computer screen. Yes, we do that for large parts of the day, every single day. And that's really the thing we dislike the most. But it's that hands-on component which is so important. So, Tim, you've got a question there?
Yeah, I wanted to echo what you're saying about the cast, because those things are amazing. One of my friends, who's a field guide trainer, he does a whole sort of module on archaeology. It's part of the course, but he has a passion for paleontology. So he's got an incredible collection of casts. It's amazing. And stone tools. And then he teaches people using those, his students, and the difference is massive. When you're talking about archaeology, like Matt was saying now, being able to see and touch these things. And I remember, the first time I went to an archaeology site, all of a sudden everything kind of makes sense. You're like, oh, that's what the central cattle pattern is. I can see it now,
Exactly.
So that's what those casts are just such a wonderful thing to be able to show people.
Yeah, they love them.
Yeah.
Thing, and it's all part of the learning experience and stuff. And I suppose we can maybe draw on from this, and then when we're doing or dealing with students at undergrad level, and often we'll sit down for tutorials and stuff. I suppose if we can try and incorporate kind of hands-on aspects as much as we can. So when we're thinking about stone tools, for example, if we can bring those examples in, and often we do that, there'll be experimental napping. When you're looking at fauna, you're going to throw a whole pile of bones on the table and say, okay, guys, let's sort through these bones. Let's look at the features. Okay, not throw them too hard so that the bones break. Sorry. A bit of a disclaimer. But you know what I mean? It's just so important for students to get that hands-on experience. And as Tim says, because then when students do get into the field eventually down the line, everything does make sense and they're very familiar with the material because they've worked on that material in a lab setting. So then, looking at it within the actual environment, they can start putting the pieces together. So so it's obviously very important.
Yeah. So that's what we also do for our third years. We give them we do garbology. I'm sure you know that. We do that, and it excites them because now they're thinking CSI, bones, all those funky shows. That to them, that's archaeology. That's archaeology. So it's so fun. If you do that, then that's how they become interested and they want to know more or find out more about your profession. Yeah.
I think as human beings as well, we're also such a curious species. So, doing the garbology, and it's what captured me in first year as well, was doing garbology with Professor Amanda Esthuizen at Wits in first year. And when she delivered that first lecture, I was hooked. And it's that curiosity about learning about us as a species and how just looking at simple things like the trash in our rubbish and what that can tell us about our daily habits. And then obviously looking at that from an archaeological perspective. So just that slight, shift in timeline, we can then look into the deep past and how we have obviously changed through time and stuff, and what we've been doing as a species. So it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
but
I know what I'm going to give Lotte for his next birthday now. I'm just going to keep a bag of rubbish and deliver it to the door. If it makes you that happy, you can have it.
That's just you trying to get out of getting me a decent birthday gift. My birthday is actually I know what's going on here. Anyways, but guys, I think we're pretty much coming up on time now, so I think we'll come to an end. But Nonny, thank you very much for your time today. It's been great to talk about these very important issues. Community outreach is obviously something that is very important, as well as getting your research out there and stuff, and getting young scholars exposed to this content early on. So that there is a succession plan essentially in archaeology, so that we can get first years, second years, third years to register and obviously continue to postgraduate level. And it's important to obviously expose young scholars to different professions as well. As you say, it's not just about being a doctor or a policeman or a nurse, whatever. There are options, in the workplace and stuff. So so thanks very much for your time today. It was really interesting.
Thanks for
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you. I had fun. This was fun.
We'll have to host you again sometime soon to talk about your interesting research in the cradle as well. So we'll do that at some point.
All right. Okay, no problem. Okay.
Thanks so much, Nonny. Thank you.